Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw, and I am joined by three people, which I think is probably the Kulturecast limit for people on a podcast. Joined by the man who put the Mike White March, once again, the host of the Projection Booth podcast, Mr. Mike White.
How you doing, honey?
If everybody does that, they're copying you at this point, so you set the precedent. Also joining us are two gentlemen who normally show up here at the same time to talk about the same movies. Screenwriter from the West Coast, raconteur extraordinaire, Mr. Mothman himself, Big Rich Hatem.
Hey, baby.
I swear to God.
All right, see now.
That's true. You can't copy Mike. And as always, he is the head writer and operator of PulpSerenade.com, Mr. Cullen Gallagher.
Hey, baby.
God damn you people.
Wow, my basement just flooded.
We've been talking about movies all these times?
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about something else in all these past conversations.
Yeah, that's fair. So on this episode of the Kulturecast, we are going to be once again venturing back in time to 1931 with Blonde Crazy, another pre-Hays Code film.
Detective giving us a once-over. You look, babe. I haven't got my glasses. Now, what do you want?
Just a smile. Come on, let's have it. Atta baby.
Scamp. Better sit over here, Bert. You're blocking traffic.
dynamite. Everybody in this joint owes him money from those crooked dice of his.
Oh, he can't do me any harm. I haven't any money, and I don't shoot craps.
Oh, yeah? Well, maybe you have something else he can use.
I want you, that's all. Anne, let's get married.
That's sweet of you, Bert. I wish you'd told me that long ago.
Why?
It's too late now, Bert.
These look mighty nice on you. You know, they just match your teeth. Gee, you look swell.
Hey, cut that out!
Whoa! Whoa! Now look what you did. Those are expensive. Oh! Oh!
So before we start talking about the film, Mike, as always, I'm going to turn the floor over to you for a minute to talk a little bit about why we're going to be talking about Blonde Crazy.
This is one of those that when I was doing my research on pre-code films and said, what are the best pre-code films? This came up several times. And I have to say I was intrigued by the idea of seeing James Cagney in kind of a non-gangster role, and also was delighted to see Ray Milland looking about 12 years old in this film.
So I'm curious, Mike, had you ever seen this before?
Never saw this one before. Before doing the research, I'd never had even heard of this film. This isn't one where, you know, like he doesn't smash a grapefruit in somebody's face or scream top of the world ma. He does talk about some dirty rats in it, which is very interesting. Though of course not you dirty rat kind of a thing. But yeah, I was thrilled to be able to partake in this one.
I feel like I should know already, but could someone tell me when the Hays Code started and exactly what it said?
I'd like to point out Richard Hatem, a person who works in the industry, is asking three non-industry people what the Hays Code was. Richard Hatem, ladies and gentlemen.
I would love to talk about that. I don't know if we want to start right into it, because I think the history of censorship in Hollywood and is really interesting. I have done a little bit of research into like state and regional censorship and sort of the economic impact of that on and how it coincides with distribution at this time in Hollywood.
Well, I guess, I know there's, it's a big road to go down. I guess I was just wondering what year did it start, and was it extremely clear cut? Was it like, okay, the Hays Code says these three things, you can't do this, this, and this, or was it sort of a vague, like, don't be obscene, and then it turns into, interpretation land?
It's not a clear-cut thing because it starts really in the 20s is when Hays winds up in Hollywood.
July 1st, yeah. Well, I think we need to. We haven't really. Mike and I talked about it a little bit on the jewel robbery, but we talked more about the rating system and how it kind of has become the Hays Code is now the MPAA in a lot of ways. But we didn't really talk about the Hays Code proper. And to answer your question before we get into this, Richard, July 1st, 1934.
That's not. But there are earlier versions of the Hays Code.
Sure. Uh-huh. But that's considered to be the code era. Is that around that time?
I was watching and trying. Look, there were aspects of the movie where they were a little cringeworthy, but I started to question, like, am I seeing things or ideas or language or situations that a little later on in the 30s and 40s, I feel like I wasn't.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondersight comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wonderside's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wonderside.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wonderside.com. Wonderside. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wonderside today.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Seeing, and I couldn't quite tell if this movie was getting away with a lot, or like this exact movie could not have been made 10 years later, perhaps, but I wasn't sure because of my general ignorance.
Before we get to the discussion, because the audience probably has the same question that Richard does, and I've been a terrible host at addressing what the do's and don'ts, the don'ts and the be carefuls of the Hays Code. So the don'ts, Richard. No pointed profanity, either title or lip. This includes God, Lord, Jesus, Christ, unless they are used reverently in connection with proper religious ceremonies, hell, damn, God, spelled G-A-W-D, and every other profane and vulgar expression, however it may be spelled, an licitious or suggestive nudity, in fact or in silhouette, and any lecherous or licentious notice, therefore, by other characters in the picture, illegal drug traffic, inference of sex perversion, white slavery, miscegenation, sexual relationships between African Americans and white people, sex hygiene and venereal diseases, scenes of actual childbirth, children's sex organs, this is my favorite, ridicule of the clergy, and willful offense to any nation, race, or creed. Those are the do-nots. And then the be carefuls are use of the flag, international relations, arson, firearms, theft, robbery, all the kind of crime style things, brutality and possible gruesomeness, technique of committing murder, whatever method, smuggling, third-degree methods, hangings or electrocution, sympathy for criminals, attitude toward public characters and institutions, sedition, so a bunch of people in this country are out, apparent cruelty to children and animals, branding of people or animals, sale of women or a woman selling her virtue, rape or attempted rape, first night scenes, man and a woman in bed together, deliberate seduction of girls, institution of marriage, surgical operations, use of drugs, titles or scenes having to do with law enforcement or law enforcing officers, and excessive or lustful kissing, particularly when one character or the other is a, quote, heavy. So all the fun stuff.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I'm trying to think of movies that don't have any of that stuff. And I'm having a hard time. It's pathetic, but the movies from the 30s and 40s that I've probably seen more than anything that I have any recall of are Marx Brothers movies and Abbott and Costello movies. And, Groucho Marx and Harpo Marx were well known for, chasing Thelma Todd and pulling her onto their laps and saying things that could be interpreted as sexual innuendo. So, now some of the Marx Brothers movies were like, I think their span went from like 29 to, into the 40s and maybe the 50s, but their main movies kind of bridged over into the Hays era. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of how it materially affected. Were there movies with real scenes of childbirth?
Oh yeah,
before 34.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Mom and Dad came out before that, right?
I can't remember the names of the films, but I mean, these sorts of like censorship in Hollywood goes back to Edison and the May Irwin kiss, which is like 1898 or 1897. And what I find really interesting is sort of the impact of how would you put it? Protest to these movies on the economics of Hollywood.
There was also the bad reputation that Hollywood got, especially after the Virginia Rapé death.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, by the time it gets to that, I mean, I was going to point out that, like, a little bit of scandal is good for sales. But when, back even with, May Irwin Kiss, you have religious groups, you have, civic groups, women's groups. All these people are, trying to object to film content and, either intervene in Hollywood or, block people from getting into the theater. And once, it shifts from like, oh, controversy, people want to see what it's about, to controversy, people aren't going to be sitting in these seats and paying for tickets. That's when Hollywood, I think, started to, shake in their boots, being like, what the fuck are we going to do? And yeah, Mike, you point out, like in the 20s, with Virginia Rapé, there starts to be more scandals. At that point, like the Catholic Legion of Decency was really trying to intervene, and there were bills in Congress about, instituting national censorship. And around that time, Hollywood starts doing these lists of do's and don'ts. They get haze, and they keep saying all these things that's almost more like lip service to, like, we're going to start policing our content. But up until, I think, through the 50s, there was still state and regional censorship in the U.S., which really gets overlooked. There's an amazing book, if y'all haven't read it, called Censored: A Private Life of the Movies, that Perlmutter, who later directed like Plow That Broke the Plains, co-wrote with a lawyer named Morris Ernst. That really goes like region by region and giving examples of how that censorship worked.
Well, I would also recommend, there's a documentary called Sickies Making Films from 2018, which talks about specifically the censorship office in Maryland, which was the last one in the United States, as far as I know. So I would recommend that.
I've never heard of that. I got to look that up.
Yeah, I'm sure, well, my friend Skiz, he was the DP on that, and was directed by his co-director from Hit and Stay. And, it was like, here's a list of things that you shouldn't do. But yeah, like you said, it's very much lip service. And even though we call this the Hays Code, I think it's really once Breen gets in where he starts to enforce it in 34. So really, it's called the Hays Code, but it's really the Breen office that is, once they come in, he comes in, it's just like, okay, that's it. Fun's over. 1934, we're shutting down all of this stuff. So that's why you have weird things like Howard Hawks's Scarface, where you have this tacked on ending of Scarface going to the gas chamber. I don't even think Paul Mooney is there. I think it's a body double, but it's like, hey, nope, crime must be punished. Everybody that does wrong has to get their comeuppance in the end.
So here, Scarface is a really good example for one of the problems that regional censorship posed for Hollywood and why it wound up costing them a lot of money, which is when Scarface was released in New York, scenes had to be cut. When it was released in Jersey, it didn't have to be cut. So the New York Times review for when it came out said, everybody go across the river to Jersey and see their full thing. And so all of a sudden you start having to have multiple prints. And with distribution at the time, there were regional distributors, so different states would allow different things to happen. So, something like the Perlmutter book mentions, like in Kansas.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondersight comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wonderside's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wonderside.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wonderside.com. Wonderside. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wonderside today.
I think there were movies where they objected to pregnancies. So a woman is unmarried without a baby, and then they cut all the scenes about her pregnancy, and then all of a sudden she has a baby. Now, you all know they do tons of testing in Hollywood at this time to make sure movies play well so they can gauge how much money it's going to make. When you start having these regional differences that are taking out pretty, climactic and big things, you can't control the movies anymore, and how you can't gauge how much money they're going to make. And then you started having, there'd be, the regional distributor has to distribute the movie to Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. You have different prints there, different prints for the Northeast, different prints for the West. And so I think that was a real economic interest for Hollywood to be like, all right, we need to control what we're putting in these movies. We don't want outside, interests, because, it's going to, cut on their paycheck. So I think it wasn't just about freedom of speech. There's a real economic incentive for Hollywood to start policing their own content.
Imagine that, Hollywood doing what's best for the bottom line.
The other thing, if I remember correctly, about the production code of 34, what differentiated that from the production code of 30 is there was a monetary fine if you broke the code. Though, to my knowledge, nobody actually was ever fined. And it was just like lip service, telling people, we're going to slap our filmmakers on the wrist if they get a little too naughty. Scarface, Hughes was openly telling Hawks to make it as violent as possible. Like he had the money and the clout, and since he was backing the movie, it gave him a lot of control.
So there you go. Now you know everything there is to know about pre-code. And when you think about the whole thing too, like Chris and I were talking about a few weeks ago, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Cullen, I think Jazz Singer comes out in mid-27, and the Breen office is 34. So you just have this little window of time where you have talkies that can have this risque dialogue and all this kind of stuff. I mean, obviously they had violent movies before that, but as far as like what we're looking at, sound films, very sophisticated films for 1931, 2, 3, etc. It's just such a short window before they just slam that censorship down.
And I think it's like March of 34. It's pretty early in 34 when they, kick it up a notch in terms of policing the content.
So, Richard, now that your questions have been answered about the Hays Code, what did you think of Blonde Crazy, and was it your first pre-Hays Code film?
Well, I don't think it was my first pre-Hays Code film, but it was the first one that I watched through that lens. And I have to say it was utter filth.
An absolute travesty on the face of cinema. How could they present such lascivious acts?
Thank God for Hays. Thank God Hays came along.
The church, the moral center of this country, folks. What about you, Cullen?
No, I was just going to say I enjoyed the movie thoroughly.
I love this movie. I've seen it many, many times before. I adore Cagney. I adore Blondell. I adore Guy Kibbe. I love Nat Pendleton. And I am a huge Roydell Ruth fan who directed this movie. So this is one of my favorite movies.
And this was my first time not only seeing this film, but ever seeing a Jimmy Cagney film. So...
Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've said it before. I'll say it again. This era of filmmaking is, of all the blind spots I have, it's probably the biggest one, because as of right now, I've seen 3 or 4 pre-code 30s films, And this is the first time I've ever seen Cagney in anything.
Wow. That's kind of amazing to me because I kind of grew up on Yankee Doodle Dandy. They used to show that on TV all the time. So, and then, I mean, and also his career spanned up until the early 80s. So I'm surprised that you didn't run into him by accident at some point.
I kind of am as well, given that, like, a lot of the jokes from The Simpsons are based off of Jimmy Cagney's characters whenever they go to that well. And you guys know what well I'm talking about in The Simpsons. It's always a Cagney character that they're doing.
I don't know that well.
Like, they have like a weird well on The Simpsons where they talk about like older films, like films this film's age. And it's always like a Cagney joke.
I didn't grow up watching The Simpsons, so it's very new to me.
Well, you're not missing anything at this point. But I knew who he was. I knew his like the way he spoke with his very specific way of speaking, and we'll talk about his performance. But I had never seen him in anything, and I know that this probably isn't what he's quote unquote known for. I would assume Public Enemy is more what he's known for, or Mike, like you said, Yankee Doodle Dandy. But this was a fun little film.
This is very characteristic of his early 30s work. If you like this, then you have a lot more fun movies like Taxi is so good, which is another Del Ruth written by the same duo.
I mean, it's just what I like about this film, similar to Jewel Robbery, similar to Blood Money. The lead, Cagney, is so insanely charismatic that the rest of the film could be terrible. And you would probably still like the film because Cagney has such a charismatic performance. Even if the rest of the film wasn't great, which this film is, that's not the case. His performance, I feel like if I saw him in something else, probably be able to carry it. You'd be able to get more mileage out of it than with some other folks who aren't nearly as charismatic as he is.
His body language, the way he manipulates his voice, gestures large or, small like a wink. His whole body, like, approach to acting is just, to me, like, so impressive, especially in 31 when a lot of other actors are still figuring out, what do I do in front of a camera now that there's a microphone?
Yeah, he's so powerful in his look, in his demeanor, and like you said, Cullen, in the way he says things. Like, you can't look away. You really can't. He's just so, in this film, he's charming, obviously, but, I'm sure he's not charming in everything, but in this film, he's just so damn charming, too. Even though he's playing the role of a criminal.
But he's a lovable criminal, and he's not the bad criminal. And I was so happy to see Lewis Calhern in this as kind of the bad criminal, because I mostly know him, a little bit from Asphalt Jungle, but mostly Ambassador Trentino from Duck Soup. So I'm just like used to seeing him getting super flustered about things. So seeing him as this very his character's name's like Dapper Dan. Yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm super cool as a cucumber, and I'm pulling the wool over, Bert Harris's eyes, James Cagney.
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Deaf Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.
These eyes. So I was very happy to see him actually get one over on somebody rather than having, somebody cut his tie off for him.
That's something that I do love about this era of studio filmmaking, about these especially Warner Brothers, because they had such a consistent stock, company of character actors. So Chris, if you enjoy the character aspect of this, you'll have a blast watching movies from this era, because these people just pop up here and there. And even if they're on screen for 30 seconds, they just bring so much life to their characters, so much,
well, it's
charisma.
like William Powell and I forget the lead in Jewel Robbery. They were together in how many films, Mike? That was their 7th film.
Yeah, Kay Francis.
Yeah, they just, it feels like you said, Cullen, the studio system at the time was predicated on that, right? Because these actors are in-house signing contracts with the studio, so they can't work for any other studio either, right?
They could be loaned out,
right? Which
would happen.
But they could be loaned out. They couldn't go actively work for another studio without being loaned out, though, correct?
Correct, yeah. And sometimes
some actors
loaning out would be a punishment as well.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sure. And I'm also assuming that they would intentionally not loan other people out as well.
Correct.
Oh, yeah. Or
it was
big
why
money to get them.
Yeah,
it's like Catan.
Why the fuck would Warner Brothers rent out Jimmy Cagney to someone unless they're like, we're going to back the truck up to your house with the money?
Here's why they would do it, because Cagney would be under contract, and so you could loan Cagney out for 5 times what his contract says. Warner Brothers pockets all of that, and they only have to pay Cagney what Warner Brothers' contract is for.
Exactly.
And I think Cagney was a bit wily when it came to contract negotiations.
Well, it is interesting that in his entire career, he was only in, I think, 69 films. And it's like he's such a luminary of old Hollywood. And you would think, because you look at some of these other guys and it's just like, oh, yeah, he was in 155 films, 200 films. I mean, even, we were talking about Nat Pendleton. He was in 114 things, as opposed to Cagney, who's just, not even 70 movies. It's like, wow, that's amazing to think of.
Well, and like you said, Mike, given how he's seen now in the film community, I mean, he's one of the tenants of this time and place, like Clark Gable, like Humphrey Bogart. You think of Jimmy Cagney in that same breath. At least I do. I don't know about y'all, but to your point, that's, isn't that kind of always the case? A lot more of the character actors working a lot more than the main stars? They have to, right?
Well, Cagney was a star. He wouldn't have been a character actor like Pendleton.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about Pendleton, who had a lot more.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, but to your point, Mike, I don't know. I mean, isn't Cagney one of, the 4 names that gets mentioned for male actors from this time period?
Yeah. And he's one of the, even when I'm a little kid and I don't know who James Cagney is, you see people do impersonations of James Cagney all the time, wherever, cartoons, on late shows, on variety shows. So he's just such a part of pop culture.
What's funny is if you imitate a gangster from a 30s film, you're just doing a Cagney impersonation.
Right. Unless you're flipping a coin and then you're doing, who is it, George Raft, right?
And you're probably not even doing James Cagney. You're probably doing Frank Gorshin.
Exactly. Yes. Yep.
We should mention, though, that the people who wrote Blonde Crazy also wrote The Public Enemy and sort of became Cagney's, go-to writers for about the next 5 or 6 years of his career.
Well, I mean, it shows, given how well this is written, how tight of a script this is. I mean, this, Mike, similarly to last week, is another over 70-minute film. And unlike The Divorcee, I wasn't checking my watch during Blonde Crazy.
No, same here. I had no idea which way it was going to go, which was really just such a pleasant surprise and such a pleasant way to spend an evening being entertained by something where you're just like, oh, okay, I didn't necessarily see that happening. And that this character did something a little bit out of character for themselves. So all the way up until the very last shot of the film, I was left guessing.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that it was, that I guess by the time it ended, and almost based on the way it ended, I then looked back and said, well, then this was a love story or a romance of some sort. Even though there was crime and there was some comedy, it sort of ended on the note of, this is sort of the state of their relationship. And it was a melancholy state. It didn't end in a marriage, so it was not traditionally a comedy. But also the feeling of not knowing where it was going. The first 10 minutes, there was that moment of, okay, this guy's a piece of work. I'm not, he's coming off a little like a predator, and I'm not
a little, Richard, a lotta.
Yeah, but it's sort of like, well, okay, I get it. This is sort of, okay, well, he's, he likes the dames. Okay, I get it. And then it sort of settled into what it really was, which was, he's not just, a stalker. He's a schemer. And first and if he doesn't have a monetary scheme, then he'll just amuse himself with an everyday scheme to pass the time of day, which is, I'm attracted to that blonde. I think I'll get her a job at this hotel, even though there's a few hurdles I've got to go over. And then that part of his personality becomes dominant, and we understand, he just loves putting one over on somebody. And then that aspect gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
And I like that. I like that about his character, is that he is always looking for an angle. I like those kinds of characters. And Mike, you guys kind of brought up how this film goes in some different directions and maybe doesn't just go very straightforward the Divorcee kind of did. I actually liked this ending, Mike, given how much I've disliked the last two endings that are kind of in the vein of this one, because this one is still kind of in that same vein a little bit. But yet I think it works immensely better, because this is the only logical place this character could be at the end of this movie, is in jail.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but in jail and pining for her. It's sort of what we're watching is a guy who loves to scheme, but his motivation for doing the schemes evolves. It goes from just doing it for money to doing it for her, to get the money back that he lost,
to make her life better,
and then to make her life better, and then we see her. She makes it pretty clear. There's two things in life I avoid, and they're both jail. But then we see her kind of, it's like, well, then she goes out on a limb for him.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
To sort of get his back when he's been conned. So we see them sort of drifting further and further into this life of crime or con games to sort of help the other one in their time of need for whatever it is, until it cannot be sustained and someone pays the price, and that becomes the ultimate show of love and devotion, and is recognized as such when she visits him in jail.
I was kind of surprised that he got nabbed at the end. I mean, we talked last week about Blood Money and how our main character gets away scot-free, and we saw that in Jewel Robbery, and I thought for sure he was going to get away with it at the end. That was like one of the big things of pre-code films, is that, he's kind of a bad guy, and he gets punished, and really he's our hero, and so I would think he shouldn't get punished. I would think that he would be out and succeed at the end.
But isn't it great? I mean, unless I'm misunderstanding the plot, which, even one like this, that's certainly within the realm of possibility. But that last moment turns on, oh, well, the character that we thought was the good guy, or was a good guy of a different class, actually turned out to be a far worse guy than the guy we've been looking at as the shady, untrustworthy guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like he can still be as colorful and charismatic as he's been throughout the movie, and yet at the same time still ultimately earn the top place in her heart by proving that even with all of his, shady ways, he still has a core of morality that the other guy doesn't.
He can still be a working class hero. He comes from, nothing, gets to the top, but still he manages to get out and find his sense of humanity. But all these other people who have money, like Ray Milland, he's just as crooked. He's even more crooked than anybody else, because he not only, as you pointed out, Richard, he has these really impure, reasons for doing these crimes. He's exploiting people. He's lying to them. He's screwing them over.
What's the easiest way to make a bad guy look like an anti-hero is just have him go up against someone who's worse than him.
Right.
Yeah.
You have those characters, and they're terrible, but they're not as bad as the really bad people. And Dapper Dan looks like such a, like you guys said, a well-put-together guy. Hey, he's the worst character in the entire film, I guess. Though you could say the lascivious old man at the beginning is, or the, her husband and husband at the end is probably the worst.
Yeah, I think Ray Milland he takes the cake. He takes the cake.
Yeah.
Well, it's because, I guess it's because he doesn't get his comeuppance in the end, or he does.
He's rich, he's privileged, he gets away with it.
He loses her in the end. That's kind of the insinuation. But he gets away with it. I don't know. Something about Dapper Dan struck me as the slimiest because he was just so proud of how much of an asshole he was, because he's boasting about how he got that, dimwit, and it's like, he's not really a dimwit, but okay.
Can we talk about the amazing scene where he gets conned, where they're in a traffic jam, and then he keeps having the other car go in front of him, with the numbers, so therefore he thinks he knows what he should be betting in order to screw the other guy. And what I really love about that is, to me, that shows Del Ruth's direction, like the brilliance of him as a director, because he's a very no frills, no bells and whistles type of guy. But he got his start actually with Zanuck, the head of the studio at the time. In the 20s, they were writers for Warner Brothers doing slapstick stuff. And then Del Ruth became a director in the silent era. And I think a scene like that just shows just the clarity of, where the camera is. It's very visually oriented. It's so cleanly and smoothly done. It's a wonderful sort of like underplayed visual gag.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That kind of stuff is actually so hard to do. And yet it was clear as a bell, and you absolutely got it. Enough that you didn't have to think about it, and you could just sort of sit back and enjoy watching it play out.
That was a great set piece, and then the other set piece of the whole counterfeit money, and when Cagney gets ripped off, I literally did not expect the way that played out. I was very pleasantly surprised.
And I love the note that they leave, and then the note sort of becomes a motif throughout the movie.
Yes. Oh, that was so good. Yeah, when he finds the note on the car after he just got stung from that whole racetrack thing that you were talking about, just like, hey, that was already in the scrapbook. Ha, ha, ha. I was like, oh, that's nice. I like it.
There's a lot. I don't know how you feel about this, Mike, but this film seems to me a lot smarter than the last three on top of everything else. Like, just from a screenwriting perspective. This is a lot less straightforward. And I like you guys have been talking about, like, I really appreciate that because everything else really has been so straightforward. I mean, the endings of The Divorcee and Blood Money notwithstanding, they were still a very straightforward narrative told very conventionally. And this one does not have that. And again, I like that a lot, on top of the fact that this film has a hilarious bathtub scene that I'm sure made a whole lot of people really upset, which,
Or very happy.
Yeah.
He almost sees her in the bathtub. Well, there you go. There's your pre-code.
But we do, which is great. The way that the camera is set up, it's like we're privileged, but he's not, which is kind of nice.
But Joan Blondell on this is fantastic.
Oh my goodness,
She's great.
I adore her.
She really plays the perfect foil to Cagney's Harris. And like their relationship and their chemistry is as good for me as William Powell and Kay Francis's in Jewel Robbery was, because it's so believable. It just doesn't feel like they're really trying. They're just doing it effortlessly.
You are so right by calling her style effortless, and it's more impressive every time I see her again in a movie, especially rewatching them. She embodies these characters so fully, you never for a moment doubt a word coming out of her mouth. But she also has, the ability to sort of go from being like hard-boiled to being kind of soft to like being very tender, sincere. She can fight. There's a lot of range in this character, and also just such range in terms of her voice. Also like Cagney, a very bodily actor.
Yeah, I think this was my first time seeing her in anything, and it's one of those where I'm like, okay, yeah, sign me up to the Joan Blondell Club. I want to see a lot more of her.
You will have so much fun.
I know she was in Grease, but I barely remember Grease, and so I apologize for that.
I don't think anyone should have to apologize for Grease, though. Except for the people who made Grease. A misogynist fantasy.
Come on. That's such a great movie.
Oh, come on. No. Sure, but at the end of the movie, she has to. Fucking come on! I had this opinion when we did a podcast about it like 6 years ago. This is not a new thing.
That's it.
This is not woke.
Canceled.
This is not. I'm not saying cancel it.
Cancel it. Just like Dr. Seuss.
My issue.
Just cancel it all.
It can't all be canceled.
So Joan Blondell, I just counted from her start in 1930. Through the end of 1932, she made 24 movies.
Holy shit!
Thank you for getting us back on topic, Cullen. By the way,
you're welcome. I'm not gonna let Joan Blondell just drift off into something else. She gets to be the focus.
I didn't realize she was in Nightmare Alley too. So I have seen her in a couple things because I'm looking at her filmography and seeing that, and seeing Stay Away Joe, which is probably one of the best Elvis films about the impotent bull. But, I'll have to check her out some more.
Can I throw out a recommendation? If you liked this movie, check out Kansas City Princess. She and Glenda Farrell did a bunch of movies together where they're just like sort of best friends getting in these sort of zany screwball situations. And in that one, the two of them they work in beauty salons, and Joan Blondell's boyfriend is a gangster, and he goes away, and Glenda Farrell convinces her to go on a blind date. And let's just say it doesn't go quite well, and pretty soon, oh my goodness, they're just like cross country getting on ships, gangsters chasing after them, and like, it is so funny. It's got a wonderful cast. Like Hugh Herbert's in it, who's a lot of fun. Hobart Kavanaugh. A lot of really great people.
I'm really disappointed. So later this year, we're going to be doing some films, possibly featuring one of the people that you talked about just now, Mike, with Stay Away Joe. And I'm really disappointed that we're not talking about that movie because the person who programmed the month stayed away from that film on purpose.
Not a big fan of Burgess Meredith and Redface.
According to that person, no. That person being Father Malone.
The song Dominic the Impotent Bull is probably one of the best things that Elvis ever sang.
But now I want to see that movie because A, it has Joan Blondell in it, and B, the picture that is on her page that she's sharing with Elvis is her as a older woman clocking him over the head with a gun. So, it aims to please, I'm sure, and it's also an Elvis film. So
I greatly enjoy all of the Elvis movies.
Mm-hmm.
I went through a phase a few years back and tracked them down, and I'm looking forward to rewatching most of them again.
Yeah, we had a really great, and they actually had this at Blockbuster, just an Elvis section. So didn't matter whether it was drama, comedy, wherever, it was just him, just his movies, and we had a great selection of it at the one that I worked at. And luckily, my boss was not opposed to throwing on an Elvis movie during the middle of the day and just, watching some clam bake, watching,
Clam bake is so good. I rewatched that a little while ago.
What about Change of Habit? Change of Habit's a good one.
That's a very interesting movie. Great.
Yes, it is. It's definitely, look, I'm not going to complain about that being the time I got to speak to Ed Asner for this podcast. And that's how I got Mike to be able to speak to Ed Asner as well. So that's awesome because Ed Asner is like a cool old guy
Fucking
in
legend.
the way that you expect him. Yeah, exactly. But yes, that is a Elvis movie unlike almost all the other ones that he's made.
I think Timothy Carey was in that one as well, which was one of the reasons why I tracked it down originally.
Yes, he is. Yeah, for sure. He's like uncredited, I think.
Yeah. Ajax store manager or something like that.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. But
wow, holy shit. I swear I'm not looking at IMDb right now.
But I mean, I like you guys said, this is getting way ahead, but Elvis is anytime that Elvis was in anything with anyone else, he seemed to elevate everybody around him. So I am looking forward to watching a movie that I'm not going to get to watch this year, but I will watch it because it has a song about an impotent bull in it. Jesus Christ.
So I found something really interesting today about the screenwriters, the team of John Bright and Kubek Glasman. They were reporters, and I think one of them was an assistant to Ben Hecht, future screenwriter of lots, tons of movies, like Notorious. So they were in Chicago and they were journalists. Apparently they wound up being at the event where Al Capone, kills, other people. And that's when they went out to Hollywood with what was a novel that was would never be. Well, they wrote the novel that wound up becoming The Public Enemy. I think it was only released as a novel, as a photoplay edition. It was only a abridged version. And John Bright was one of the founders of the Screenwriters Guild. He was a very politically active filmmaker, and I guess Zanuck at one point questioned him in the 30s and said, "Are you trying to work in socialist content into your movies?" And he said, "Yes, I am," and was later blacklisted. But yeah, he seems like a really interesting guy. His partner died very young in 38 at age 40, but Bright kept working through the 40s and 50s, early 50s. I think he had, I don't know how much stuff he was doing under different names because of the blacklist. But he did I Walk Alone with Lancaster, She Done Him Wrong, the Mae West movie, If I Had a Million, he worked on that great sort of anthology film in the 30s with W.C. Fields.
Well, and you mentioned he was the head of the Screenwriters Guild. Wasn't Cagney the president of the Screen Actors Guild for a while?
I think you're right.
Right?
As was Ed Asner.
Yeah, that's right. And Ed Asner was, didn't Ed Asner, he was pushing for a lot of change and reform in the Screen Actors Guild, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. The old school Hollywood and everything is just, it's so far removed from what's going on now, but yet at the same time, it's the same shit. It feels like a different time and place, but yet I can't help but feel like it's probably the same nonsense still going on every day.
Well, yeah, for sure. It's like any other business. There's no sentimentality, and even more so now that they're just arms of other larger corporations who have even less interest. I mean, there was a time maybe in the 70s where the people who were running studios had come up through other artistic endeavors, and they were kind of the last word. far more so than now, where it really, and it's going quarter to quarter. It's just like, well, what's happening, in the next 3 months, and you have to answer for things, and it gets, it's as cutthroat as any other business and bottom line driven.
I mean, aren't most of the studios, Warner Brothers is owned by what, AT&T, right? Disney owns everything that has Fox to do with it, at least 20th Century Fox. Universal is what, Viacom? Are there none of the, a lot of the houses are all gone. A lot of the old, distributors are gone in the way that they used to be. They're just, like you said, Richard, just an arm of an octopus, of a very big octopus.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's no, I'm trying to think of MGM, but it's MGM UA because there used to be a UA. But I think, there's, it's as you say, the same old nonsense. But what makes that hard to perceive is people like James Cagney, who, the product of Hollywood is so magical that sometimes you do forget that. Oh yeah, no, it's all about money. It's not just people trying to make each other's dreams come true. That sort of happens accidentally, as a byproduct of doing all this. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to celebrate the people we love.
I'll just give a plug for more Del Ruth movies, because he does not get talked about enough. Life of the Party from 1930, fabulous, early screwball comedy about two women who wind up, through a con running off to Havana with a ton of dresses, and then, people chase after them down to Havana, and Charles Butterworth owns a horse, and Charles Butterworth is if y'all haven't seen him, just is one of those comedians that it's like he has one character that he plays, and that character sustained him for a career. He just is almost as like it's in another world, like he's like you're talking to him and he's talking about something completely different. Really sort of funny, scatterbrained actor. I adore his early version of the Maltese Falcon, which is sometimes called, I think, Dangerous Female. Taxi with Cagney from 32 is great. Mind Reader is a lot of fun. It's that and the sort of like con artist story with Warren William. And let me confirm, it's written by Wilson Meisner, who I think was like a real life con artist and has like connections to Jack London. I need to go back to that. Lady Killer with Cagney is fabulous. His version of Bulldog Drummond from 34 also has Butterworth, which is terrific. Really just like the 30s for Del Ruth. There's so many good movies. Then he continues into the 40s and 50s. He does what I think is the first Allied artist movie. It happened on Fifth Avenue, which is about a bunch of homeless people who break into a mansion one winter, assuming that the owners are going to be away. And one of the owners comes back and finds all the hobos. And he's like, well, I'm the owner of the house. And they're like, we don't believe you. You're just one of us. And he just goes along with it and lets them live there and pretends to be a hobo with them.
Nice.
What?
Yeah.
What's the name of that one?
It's called It Happened on Fifth Avenue.
I think we need to find a time to watch this movie.
It's a very, very cute, like holiday type story. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, I adore him. And his son is a famous cinematographer who did, I think his first feature was Motel Hell. And then I think he wound up doing a lot of like Studio 60 and West Wing. He's still working.
If it was Motel Hell, I might have spoken to the guy.
Thomas Del Ruth.
He does a good job. I mean, this is a well-directed film, as the last three films have been, And the stuff that he did in this film, I think, kind of outclasses the last three. But, I mean, the last three were competently done, so it doesn't really matter, No, I don't think anyone was expecting them to do any sort of tricks or unique camera work, but I appreciate it in a film like this, because we've kind of already talked about it. Richard, what would you give this film out of 5?
Well, if 5 being the most perfect film ever made, I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give this one a 4, not a 4.5, but I'm going to give it a 4. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would watch it again. Maybe I'll give it a 4.5. It really, but I would say if I give it 4.5, then 3.5 of that is for Jimmy Cagney, and then the other full point is for every other wonderful thing about it.
And don't forget, guys, the first time Richard gives a 5 on this podcast is going to be when we talk about the Mothman prophecies. So he's waiting.
How dare you?
Oh, come on. Cullen, what about you?
I'll go the full 5. I think it's terrific. It's 71 minutes. It's a lot of really great stuff crammed in. Not a second wasted.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with a 5 as well. I really enjoyed this movie, and I can definitely see myself watching it again pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4.5. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, you guys have said more than I actually could at this point. So it's, I will say that this has continued to give me a reason to want to search out Cagney, because before it was just, I assumed he's got to be a good actor given how much he's talked about. But now, having seen this, now I want to go and search out his kind of filmography and watch Public Enemy. I mean, things he's known for that have, that were on a ride at Disney World for 20 fucking years. I mean, the Great Movie Ride had Jimmy Cagney in it. If you're in a ride at Disney World, you've kind of transcended the medium in a way.
Well, check out, if you want to go a little later in time, check out 1, 2, 3, the Billy Wilder movie. That's wonderful.
Good recommendation.
Yeah, I'm going to just start watching all of his stuff because, again, he's just such a damn charismatic actor. You can't help but want to watch his films.
Why don't you just make this the Cagney cast?
Yeah, there you go. It's only 69 films. Come on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Then I would have a definite end date, and I could get out of this business and go live in the woods somewhere and chop wood and sell it out of my pickup truck for a living.
I mean, depending where you are, you can make a good living selling wood.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. So on that bizarre note about selling wood, let's take a break and we'll play a preview for the aptly named film for the next Kulturecast.
Understand you, Vivian. I've done everything in my power to make you happy. I tried to give you everything you asked for, let you do as you please.
No, it isn't you. I don't know what it is. I just seem fed up with everything.
No, but seriously, dear. There must be some solution. Can't we get together?
Now look here, Mr. Kirkwood. I'm butting into something that's none of my business. I don't know what happened between you and Vivian, and I don't care. But I do care about your little boy.
Where are they?
At the Warwick. She's registered under the name of Mrs. Kilroy.
Just one more, darling, and then you'll have to dress.
That's right.
Mommy, I'm hungry. Is Mama's little honey bunch hungry? Here, have some of those.
I don't like those anymore. Can I have bread and milk?
Well, I'll call your bluff, Mr. Kirkwood.
If you make one move against my wife or me, I warn you, I'll break every bone in your body and then throw you in jail. Now get out.
And it was such a terribly important matter that I told Junior we ought to stop on our way and ask Daddy about it.
I'm sure that was right, Miss Westcott.
You've got to find him, I tell you. You've got to find him.
That's right. In the next Kulturecast, we're going to be talking about 3 on a Match. And we are going to be joined by none other than my good friend, by Father Malone. You know, the guy from Dreams for Sale and Chronicles from the Crypt and Dark Destinations. His own podcast where he goes to fictional places. You should totally check it out if you haven't.
3 on a Match, story by the same team who wrote Blonde Crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go, right? I mean, It's I'm looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to this entire month. I mean, I said it in the first episode, Mike. This month has been really strong. Not like I expected anything less, you know, given your choices have always been either really fun or a kick in the teeth, but a good kick in the teeth. So, when you're not here, Mike, for Mike White March, or when you're guesting, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me over at the Barney Miller podcast, The Life and Times of Captain Barney Miller. Or you can find me and Richard and Chris talking about Rankin Bass films at Rankin on Bass. And you can always find me at the projection booth, which is available at projectionboothpodcast.com.
What about you, Cullen?
I'm still over at pulp-serenade.com, blogging about Dakeen. I'm going to be blogging about that guy for a long time. I just found out today, his dog was named Boom Boom Beelzebub.
Nice.
3 names for your dog?
Boom Boom Beelzebub.
Wow.
It's a heck of a name.
Wait, you don't have multiple names for your dog?
I mean, I do have multiple names, but they're all not just one name. What is your dog's name?
Well, there's like, you know, when you come to like a show dog, it's like, you know, Chance's Last Score or something like that.
Oh,
but,
Jesus.
You know, when it comes to, you know, I mean, you make up little nicknames for your dog. You get this whole thing. So you Katie Bug Butt kind of thing, you know.
What about you, Richard? Where can people find you?
What's your dog's name, Richard?
Yeah, what's your dog's name?
Well, I got 2 dogs, Bowie and Luna.
Oh.
And then we've got 2 cats, Monkey and Stormageddon, Glorious Diamond of the West.
There you
go. That's an epic name.
It was, you can tell the whole family was involved when you get a name that long. So, we couldn't figure it out. So, but anyway, well, when I'm not here on this podcast and when I'm not ranking on Bass, I'm working hard at the down on Titans Road, trying to get that Titans season 3 just perfect for you guys. I don't know what you're going to think of it, but I just want everyone to know that we work really hard, and, you know, it's really hard to do this and get up in front of everyone. So, you know, just don't make fun.
Richard, don't hurt us, please. I mean, come on. If someone hurts you over a TV show, it's, it's your fault because you wrote it.
The fans take their DC material very seriously.
As someone doing a podcast about the Snyder Cut in 2 days, I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, I was about to say we're about to step into the 7th circle of hell on Thursday. We're paying. Not only are we doing a podcast, we're doing a live video podcast on the 18th when it comes out at 9 Central. So we're painting a giant target on ourselves, because we're not only talking about it when it comes out, and we're talking about it on video. So they're going to call us, you fat fucks who don't know shit about Quick Stroke or whatever bullshit DC Ketchup Man, Condiment King, excuse me.
Oh, hold on. There's no character named Quick Stroke.
I know there's not.
But there should be.
Let's make that super clear.
Let's be honest. If a comic book publisher were to have a character named Quick Stroke, it would probably be DC.
That was my nickname in college.
Yeah, right. Oh, there's old Quick Stroke over there.
The ladies call him Mr. Speed.
He's got the speediest hands in all of town, I've heard. Oh, God.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I'm not looking forward to it. But yes, Richard, the fan bases of comic book movies are a little much.
Yeah, you know what? All we're looking for is engagement, as I always say, engagement. Whatever you're coming for, love or hate, just watch.
And you know what they say? They like what they like. Maybe a little too much.
Well, there you go.
I mean, hey, I don't know why you would threaten someone if you didn't like something so much you felt like you needed to threaten someone over it, so. I fucking love Star Wars so much I would have killed George Lucas because I hate him. What? No, calm down, please. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Christmas Claus, Kulturecast.com, Patreon.com/Kulturecast is where you can find all those things. Patreon, my Twitter. the website for the podcast. Big thanks as always to these three dudes, especially Mike, for programming the month, and we'll catch you on the next episode.